let us get into our actual preview of this game, because we've had folks in the chat coming after us both ways. Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, reminding us that not only did Lenora Sellers get hurt in the LSU game, Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders were both hurt in the Ole Miss game. Sellers was limited. Sanders, I believe, was out completely. This is a healthy South Carolina team going up to Clemson on Saturday. This feels different than 2 years ago, where South Carolina had just pulled the surprise win against Tennessee and then went and beat Clemson. I feel like most people who've been watching the last 5-6 weeks are on South Carolina here.
Yeah, I mean, I picked South Carolina outright. And, again, Mr. Prisoner of the Moment, it's pretty easy to get wrapped up in how well South Carolina is playing, and that Louisville game is still stuck in my head. Like, I just don't think Clemson's very good. And I don't think that we've seen anything from Clemson to prove otherwise. And, you can't – people in the chat, I think, are probably on board with what I'm going to say here. You can't nag Indiana because they didn't play a good schedule and then prop up other teams that have played a harder schedule, but have lost the only 2 games that they've played against good teams and have beaten nobody either, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You can't.
Yeah, if you have problems with Indiana, Clemson, you also have problems with Clemson.
Yeah, and probably should have bigger ones, because Clemson, I think, got dominated worse than Indiana did in their game. Maybe had more yardage, I think, but the Georgia game was ugly. So I just, there's not much to like about them. Like, what's the path to victory for Clemson? Turning South Carolina over, hoping Lenore Sellers has a bad game. Like, I just don't like their offense. It's looked explosive at times. I like Crazy Legs Klubnik when he gets out into the open field. Like, they've done some things.
But the thing is, just does Crazy Legs Klubnik, Cade Klubnik is who we're talking about, the quarterback for Clemson, who has, it's interesting. I just was looking at his rushing log, and obviously sacks get backed out of your rushing stats, but he's had some pretty key runs in their wins. Like, he's faster than people realize. The thing is, I don't know how fast he is against this defense. When you have Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard coming off the edge at you,
yeah,
they make everybody look slow in comparison.
I think that's the reason why I like South Carolina just in general as a team, because their defensive line is so good and they've got a really exciting quarterback. So, they have pieces in place, the same pieces that I really liked about Ole Miss that didn't show up last week, unfortunately. But when you have a really good defensive line and a good quarterback, you have a chance in every game you play.
Yeah. So Lenore Sellers, if we look at his PrizePicks number, if you're not playing PrizePicks, download the app. Use the code Staples when you sign up. Play $5, get $5 instantly. Best daily fantasy game in America. So Lenore Sellers in this game, his passing number is 195.5. Cade Klubnik's is 231.5. What they're saying is they don't feel like Lenore Sellers needs to dominate through the air, because South Carolina can dominate on the ground, be it with Lenore Sellers or with Rocket Sanders. Rocket Sanders' number in this game is 73.5 rushing yards. And I think if you get a more than on both of those numbers for South Carolina, they're winning the game. Especially if you got Lenore Sellers contributing some with his legs as well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think that we could be looking at a Clemson doesn't score very much game here.
I think we are too. I think the South Carolina Texas A&M game is a good question, or a good comparison here. Clemson is a little better throwing team, not as good of a running team as Texas A&M, but South Carolina, that pass rush can absolutely put you in a blender, can cause some negative plays, and then South Carolina can control the clock, control the tempo of the game with its offense. And I think that's where you're going to have a problem. Like, if Rocket Sanders is having a good game, and that was a really good Rocket Sanders game against Texas A&M, I think South Carolina dictates the pace of everything.
Yeah. And I think they're just I know Clemson's got some dudes, but just isn't South Carolina just built in a way from a physicality standpoint that just makes you fall in love with them? The elements that we've seen from teams that we are accustomed to playing on this stage, I think South Carolina possesses. So, to me, they are just the better football team, and I don't understand, maybe other than just being on the road, why they're not favored in the game.
I wonder about it too, and I do know Vegas does respect history quite a bit, and then this rivalry's been pretty lopsided through the years. Other than that one period where Steve Spurrier beat Clemson 5 times in a row, like Clemson has pretty much dominated the rivalry. So it's hard, I think, for anybody who does take history into account to say, "Oh, South Carolina is clearly better here," but I feel like they are. I feel like based on what I have watched over the last 6 or 7 weeks, that South Carolina is better than Clemson.
Yeah. And like the fun thing with South Carolina is that they have more sellers in the future too. So
here's a great question from Skull in the chat. Is Sellers a top 3 quarterback in the NCAA in 25? I'm hoping this question is a video game question. Like, is Sellers a top 3 rated quarterback in college football 26 when it comes out next summer? I'm going to say yes on that. I think he will probably be the quarterback you most enjoy playing with in the video game next year. Is he going to be one of the top 3 in the country next year? That I don't know, but I think he's going to be in the conversation for sure.
Where is he now in this year?
Okay, all right. Let's start in the SEC. Who would you rather have in the SEC? And we're talking about for right now and also for the next couple of years.
Am I insane to say that I'd rather have Sellers than Beck?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because that's how I.
Would you rather have Sellers or DJ Lagway?
DJ Lagway.
Okay, Nico or Sellers?
I think DJ Lagway would be the quarterback if like you get the future too. I don't think there's a quarterback in
the DJ's
country.
The one you're taking for the whole country.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, DJ's number 1.
Nico or Sellers? You had to think about it.
Sellers.
I thought you were going there. Okay. Nussmeier or Sellers?
Sellers.
Okay. And so that's the SEC, and we could move into the other conferences. We could branch it out into the other conferences.
Andy, you did ask quarterbacks. Like, I think Sellers has probably played better than those guys this year, but you also put in like very high ceiling guys, like because like Nico, like you could play that clip in 2 years and I could look like the biggest moron on the face of the earth. And like I'll sit here right now and tell you, like I don't know how
here we go.
Close Nico's going to get to reaching a ceiling.
I like this game, by the way. So we'll wrap up our South Carolina Clemson preview, and I'll once again say download the PrizePicks app, use the code Staples, play $5, get $50 instantly.